Archana.
Hi.
Hi. Archana, I'm very excited about the topic today. The topic today that we're going to have a conversation on is the perfect sauce of a winning strategy.
Lovely.
Sounds interesting? Yeah, I
Very
know. And,
interesting.
I know strategy has a very, it's like people have made a horror story out of it. Day in, day out, I hear so many misconceptions and grievances around the word strategy. It seems it's only a topic for boardroom, it's only for the CEOs, it's a waste of time. But I want to change that thought for some people today with this conversation that we're going to have. Because fact of the matter is, whether we believe it or not, whether we want to do it or not, it's something that we are doing by default in every aspect of our life. So, this perfect source of a winning strategy, I think each and every person, whether you're working, non working, student, professional, man, woman, gender, child, old, whatever stage of life you are in, whatever you may be doing, this topic applies to you because um, there's no escape from strategy.
So, as always, we are going to keep it absolutely simple, I think. And today, we are not getting into any details, but just touching the basics. So, what we're
Yeah.
talking about is only the ingredients and a little more on maybe some measures, aspects, or garnishing of that sauce that we're talking about. So, shall we get to the
Yeah.
cooking?
Yeah, and both these things are my favorite. Strategy, business skills, and cooking skills are going to be a good mix today. Let's see how it turns around. I'm excited about it. So I think in the beginning, what I want to say is everybody knows what strategy means. Fine. So we are not going to define as always. We are not into definitions. But before we get to the sauce preparation, what is the first thing that comes to your mind, Archana, when you are thinking about cooking something? The most important thing is the ingredients, the raw materials. I think, like you said, we're going to keep it simple. We are going to only bring today the framework of coming out with a winning strategy through this analogy of a sauce and cooking, right? So, I guess the first thing we do is get our pans and stoves ready. While you're getting your pans and stoves ready to make your winning strategy sauce, I think what we need to consider is, and that is the most important part, is that you've got to think about purpose and intention. There is
Very
no
true.
strategy if you don't know what the purpose of it, and we can't say enough of it, but the purpose and intention is so important. You have to think whatever area of life you are, whether it's personal, career, life, children, yourselves, your business, whatever area of a strategy or a purpose you have in mind, put it down on a piece of paper. Be very clear, because if that is not clear, I think the way forward is not going to be. So, in the context of perfect sauce, I think we need to just visualize the final dish that we have in mind, and then start going with putting the pan, getting your stove ready. Should we begin with the ingredients? I think that first thing that we need, once your purpose and intention is ready, there's also a lot of confusion about what is purpose and what is vision, mission. We're going to talk a lot about it, but that's a discussion for a separate day.
Right.
But so long, I think your purpose is ready. The first three ingredients I'm going to speak. So I think the most important thing that I feel, if especially from business perspective, I always think about it. But even when you're working on your personal growth, you have to be skilled enough. You have to be strategically thinking when you're preparing a strategy, and that's a skill to have. They say there's a data around it that there are only 3 out of 10 people who are strategic thinkers. So think about it. If you are talking about your personal growth, make sure you have somebody, and if you feel that you're not skilled enough to do that, have a team, have somebody to help you out. But empowered skill team is most important. I think that's the most
True.
important thing that you need to have. You have to have people who are risk takers. You have to have people who are innovative. The other thing, that the space that I come from, I always say outside in approach. What is the purpose that you stand for? What is it that you're aiming at? I think that outside in approach is very important. So let's say if I want to learn English, let's say I want to improve my English or my language skills. Now, why am I doing it is important. That covers the purpose part. But why, who am I doing it? Is it some coaching that I want to take? Is it my profession that I'm doing? That perspective is very important.
Very
So
important.
outside in perspective is the second most important. And the third important thing, which we rely upon a lot, is data. It has to be a fact based assessment. When you are sitting on a strategy, when you're working through it, it's very important that you have your research in place. again, taking the example of language skills, if you want to make sure you know which institutes are there, you should know where you stand today, where you want to be tomorrow. So all those facts and data points are very, very relevant. What do you think, in your opinion, are?
I think there are many other aspects that we can actually think about. Is also we need to have our vision and mission aligned so that we
Right.
have our goals directly there and we are realistically walking towards it. Another one is the unique value proposition. We need to know who are the people we are going to be dealing with, who are the competitive advantage that we are going to be getting from. So, that is very important that we get aligned with all of this.
Like you said, it has to be long term. The
Yes.
critical parts to it is, so once again, we have an empowered team, we have vision, mission in place, we have our data points with us.
Yeah.
We have to have a long-term perspective in mind. It cannot be short-term, it cannot be for today, and definitely outside in perspective. So these are the 6 important ingredients that we need to make sure that we have in place for a winning strategy. But that's just a beginning. Archana, when we do something, temperature is a very important part. And I thought what could be correlated to temperature when we talk about this analogy in strategy. And I think what comes to play, and I've seen that missing in a lot of discussions in strategy, especially in business strategy discussions, is patience. I think you have to have patience when you are thinking of a winning strategy. So patience and being open to ideas. When we talk of empowered team, I think open to ideas is the most important part. Hear everyone, have different perspectives, right? And then draw your conclusion or draw your plan in place, right? So I think these are some of the which are very, very critical for a winning strategy. What else comes to your mind when you're thinking of a sauce? And
I also feel there has to be a perfect mixture of many other things. Like you need to be consistent with what you're doing. So basically your texture, your smell and taste, how we talk in ingredients, has to be absolutely in balance. So the flavor of the sauce is absolutely perfect, right?
So what you're talking about is what are the important factors that make a perfect sauce? So I think when I am, like you said, when I have a sauce in front of me or when I have any dish in front of me, what excites me, just by the look or feel of it, I get excited and you want to order those things. And I think when people ask me that, Rinku, how do I know it's a winning strategy? Well, strategy is never, it's not something which will give you an immediate result. Strategy is a thought, is a perspective that you build for a long term. So it's very difficult sometimes to answer, but I think it gets easier with this analogy, like you just shared, that when you think of a perfect sauce, and when we think of strategy, like you said, the texture, right? When we think of a sauce, we look at the texture, we look at the consistency part of it. I think when we think of winning strategy, the consistency and texture comes from, and which you can definitely figure out if it's on a track to be a winning strategy, is through the outcomes that you're defining. Remember, we talked about vision, mission as an ingredient and the purpose. I think all that has to be culminated into SMART goals and objectives. And if that clarity is there, you have a good texture and that will help you build a good sauce to a winning strategy. The other part is the smell and the aroma. I think that's a big factor. And when you talk of winning strategy, you have to make sure that it can be tracked. All those goals and the specific SMART goals that you wrote down for your strategy, they can be tracked and they can be traced. There have to be some timelines around it and you can know those outcomes. If you have that in place, I can smell the winning strategy already.
Even I can.
What about the balance in flavors, Archana? How do you think we can correlate that part to our winning strategy sauce?
See, it's as simple as that. Variance in results vis-a-vis targets set in the beginning will make you understand where you're heading towards.
Right. So we have the texture in place. If you work on the texture, the smell, the aroma, and the balance in flavors, you can have a sauce to a winning strategy. And by that we say, have your outcomes and goals very, very specific. Make sure they are traceable and they can be tracked, and you have a plan in place to track them. And third and most important is that the taste you're going to get, whether you're losing, you're behind, or you are ahead of it, is by knowing the variance. So always have that mechanism in place. So if you have that, if you have your ingredients in place, and if you have this, these parameters of understanding of a perfect sauce of winning strategy, I think we should have a good measure and a good understanding of where we are. So Archana, I know we all think that life is simple and we all wish to walk in a straight line, but this is not how it is. Life is not always a straight line.
It's a
There are many
zigzag.
risks. Absolutely. There are so many risks and contingencies that we face on a daily basis. So, and it's funny because a lot of people, when we sit with our clients and prospects and we think of a strategy, we say, it should be a success. Success is not, strategy doesn't give you a definite framework of, yes, this is what you're going to be. It gives you a
Right.
direction. It's like you want to reach somewhere and it becomes a bridge for you to reach somewhere.
Very
Now,
true.
there could be many ups and downs on the way, and you could fall flat. But the key here is that to make sure that you're on a winning path or you're on a path for success, you keep looking back, you keep validating, keep evaluating your strategies, and coming back to it and revisiting. And you have to be friends with it. It's not a one-day thing. You have to be you have to imbibe it in
It's
your
an
daily
ongoing
practice.
process. Yes, it's a zigzag line. So I think when we make the strategy, we are always, I think mentally we need to be prepared. It might not work that way, but if we have the strategy clear in our head, even the zigzags make it look easier. So I think that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, and you have to face it with confidence. So, like they say, it's not my word. It's this famous strategist Martin Rees who has said this, that you need a strategy for a strategy. So this is what we came up with today. I hope it helps, because this whole perfect sauce thing is a strategy for a winning strategy, and applies to everyone. So I hope everyone can make use of it.
I'm sure after all this, everybody is going to learn how to make their secret sauce. So it's going to be really, really perfect for everyone, the way they like it, the way they want to taste it, and the way they want to smell it. So, yes, we'll see you next time, next week, very soon with another one. So, stay tuned.